Hello students, welcome to Bionurturing channel. I'm Chandana. This is our first video in our channel. In this video I am going to explain about cell and their structure and their fundamentals of the cell. Okay. So what is cell? So cell is a microscopic channel which we can't see with our naked eyes. It was very small, we can't see with our eyes. Okay, it was present everywhere, like every organism, like me and you, everyone. Okay, cells was present in all organisms. Cell is the basic structural and functional unit of organism. Okay, so based on this cell, they are divided into two type of organisms. They are unicellular organism and multicellular organisms. So in what is the difference between unicellular organisms and multicellular organisms? In unicellular organisms, it contains only single cell. That organism was surviving with only single cell. That is known as a unicellular organisms. The organisms which was have multiple cells like million cells, like those known as a multicellular organisms. Unicellular organism example is bacteria, and multicellular organisms plants, animals, human beings, everyone. These are the example for multicellular organisms. Now we know what is cell, where it was present, okay, why it is necessary. Okay, we know. Then we enter into the structure of the cell. So in the structure of the cell, I forgot to display a major organella that is known as a plasma membrane. So plasma membrane is an important organella in a cell. It is a membrane. It was membrane present outside of the cell. Present outside of the cell, it is a membrane. It gives structure and function to structure and shape to that cell. Okay, the major function of cell membrane is it gives support and structure to the cell, and it gives some shape also. It is also known as a semi-permeable membrane. Semi-permeable membrane. Why it called as semi-permeable membrane? Okay, it allows only particular molecules. It allows only particular molecules which was essential to the cell, and it controls the entry of the molecules or anything which enter into the cell or out of from the cell. So that's why it's known as a semi-permeable membrane. It allows only particular molecules. The major function of this cell is it gives shape and structure, and it allows only particular molecules. This is known as a plasma membrane. Okay, and it separates the internal organelles from the outer environment. From the outer environment, it was protecting the inner organelles, and because of that, the entire entropy was changed inside the cell. Okay, so this is the major important structures of the plasma membrane. Okay, then we enter into the structure, like organelles of the cell. So these are the major organelles which was present inside of the cell. Okay, the first one is cytoplasm, and second one is the nucleus, and third one is mitochondria, endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi complex, vacuoles, and lysosome. These are the cell organelles. Okay, these are all known as a cell organelles. Okay, so then we enter into the I will explain you briefly what was the major role of this organelles and what will they do, everything. So the number one is cytoplasm. Yeah, here this is cytoplasm. Cytoplasm is a fluid. Okay, cytoplasm is a fluid which was present inside the cell and which protecting the cell organelles. Okay, it is a fluid, viscous fluid, which was present inside the cell, and it was protecting all the organelles which was present inside the cell. Okay, this is the major function of the cytoplasm. These all organelles which was floated on the cytoplasm, it was floated on the cytoplasm. Because of that, it was placed on a where it was present, like it gives some structure and shape through the through the cytoskeleton. Cytoskeleton is one of the modified organelle. Like previously we don't know what is cytoskeleton. Generally we know only cytoplasm. what is cytoplasm. Like generally we know cytoplasm, but we don't know what is cytoskeleton. Okay, what is cytoskeleton? The question is what is cytoskeleton. So how our body made up of with muscle, but only muscle we can't survive. There is no shape for any body. So like that, uh, how organisms need skeleton to make a shape, like that here cytoplasm needs skeleton for the shape structure. Like because of cytoskeleton, it was giving shape to the cell. It is a backbone of the cytosol. Like the cytoskeleton contains several filaments. Like number one is intermediate filament and microtubules and microfilament. These are the filamentous network. Because of this network, where organisms was presented, it was freezed there. It was not changing their places also. These are all helping for the shaping of the cell, shaping and anchorage to the cell. And it helping in the communication. It helping in communication and interaction between the two organelles also. And it also helpful for the transporting of molecules, ions and proteins also. Every time it was helping to connect each other between the two organelles inside the cell. So cytoskeleton is it's a type of skeleton for the cell. Okay, and then this is the major important role of the cytoplasm and how it was present in the cell. Okay, then another one is the nucleus. Okay, yeah, here what is nucleus? Nucleus is the master of the cell. Why I'm saying it's a master of the cell means it was controlling the all the cell organelles which was present inside the cell. And it also play a major role for carrying genetic material inside that. Generally it contains genetic material, where this here it contains genetic material. Okay, generally know what is DNA. Okay, DNA means DNA which was carrying through the nucleus. Okay, DNA means it is a genetic material which was comes from our parents. Okay, it was stored in this nucleoplasm nucleus. Okay, so that's why it was a major important organella. It was integrated with the all the cell organelles inside the cell. Okay, it carries a genetic material. Then we enter into the structure of nucleus. Here this is known as a nuclear envelope. Okay, this is nucleus envelope, which was covered the nucleus. It is also membrane, like a plasma membrane. It was covered the nucleus. And the small pore like structure is known as a nuclear pore complex. Nuclear pore complex. What is nuclear pore complex? It is a small hole through that all the like mRNA will be transported to the nucleoplasm to the cytoplasm. All the transportations from this nucleoplasm to the cytoplasm. Cytoplasm. Outside the region is known as the cytoplasm. Okay, from this nucleus plasm to the cytoplasm, all the transportation occurred through the pore is known as a nuclear pore complex. And this yellow part which was looking, that is known as a endoplasmatic reticulum. Endoplasmatic reticulum, ER. Okay, why ER was located here? It is also separate organella, but why it was located here means this membrane. Okay, I will explain you clearly. This membrane was nuclear membrane which was interconnected with this endoplasmatic reticulum, which was continued through this endoplasmatic reticulum. So that's why it was integrated with the nuclear envelope. This endoplasmatic reticulum was integrated with the nuclear envelope. Okay, then and chromatin material which was present inside the nucleoplasm. Okay, these are the chromatin material which was come from our parents. It was stored in the nucleoplasm. Okay, nucleolus. It is the major important for the formation of lysosomes here. Okay, nuclear envelope. What is nuclear envelope? I already told you it was the covering the cell. And the pore also for the transportation of mRNA from the cytoplasm, from this nucleoplasm to the cytoplasm, and all the molecules which was transporting through this nuclear pore complex. Okay, then this is the major important function of the cell. Major important function of the nucleus. So nucleus is important for the cell division and carrying of genetic material and integrated with the all organisms. So through this replication only we can divide. So that's why cell nucleus is important and it's called as a master of the cell. Okay, brain of the cell. Then mitochondria. So this is also one of the organella which was present inside the cell. So mitochondria is generally known as a powerhouse of the cell. It was very important for the NEET bits and MCQs. So mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Okay. So here clear structure of mitochondria. So mitochondria also contains DNA like a nucleus. So it is a separated DNA which doesn't comes from mother and father. It comes from only mother. The DNA which was present inside the mitochondria comes from the mother only. Okay. Here ribosomes also present and also DNA also present. This DNA comes from only mother. Okay, this DNA is known as a mitochondrial DNA. And then outer membrane. This is known as the outer membrane of the mitochondria and this is the inner membrane of the mitochondria. These are all inner membrane of mitochondria and then interspace between them, that is known as the lumen. Okay, the interspace between the two membranes is known as a intercellular space, but also it's known as a lumen. Okay, so this is why mitochondria is essential for cell. Means it was involved in several metabolic process like anaerobic respiration and also producing energy. It was producing energy and ATP. So ATP is adenosine triphosphate. It is most important to do any work. It was based on ATP. Without energy, we can't do any work. Like all the metabolic activities was depend on the ATP. So this is the powerhouse of the cell. It was generating the energy and power through the food. So this is known as a mitochondria. This is the major function of mitochondria in a cell. Okay. Then endoplasmic reticulum. So I already told you endoplasmic in a previous slide. Endoplasmic reticulum. Here endoplasmic reticulum was interconnected with the nuclear envelope. Okay. So here major difference between what is endoplasmic reticulum. Endoplasmic reticulum is a sac-like structures which was near to the nucleus and it was interconnected to the nuclear envelope. Okay, nuclear envelope. So these are known as the endoplasmic reticulum. Here two types of endoplasmic reticulum. Number one is a rough endoplasmic reticulum. And another one is a smooth endoplasmic reticulum. Why rough and smooth? What is the difference between the rough endoplasmic reticulum and smooth endoplasmic reticulum? Here rough endoplasmic reticulum contains ribosomes. Okay, on their outer membrane there is a small balls is known as the ribosomes. Okay, these are known as a rough endoplasmic reticulum. In any endoplasmic reticulum, it contains small ribosomes that is known as a rough ER. Okay, without these ribosomes, a small tube-like structures is known as a smooth ER. Okay, that is the major difference between the rough endoplasmic reticulum and smooth endoplasmic reticulum. Here the function of rough endoplasmic reticulum is producing proteins. Okay, producing proteins. I will explain you clearly. Producing proteins. Okay, and smooth endoplasmic reticulum which was important for the synthesizing lipids and also detoxification. It plays a major role in detoxification. Smooth endoplasmic reticulum. This is most important to note down that smooth endoplasmic reticulum is is useful for the detoxification in cell. Okay, these are the major difference between the rough endoplasmic reticulum and smooth endoplasmic reticulum. And then we enter into the another important organella is known as a Golgi complex. This is also known as a post office. Why I am saying it is a post office means it was sort out the proteins. It was sort out and aggregate the proteins where it was going to be located. It will be relocated to that place. It was delivered to that place through the vesicles. Okay, so that's why I'm saying this is the post office of this cell. So that is known as a Golgi complex, post office of this cell. Okay, that is also important for need bit. Okay, here what is Golgi complex? Here this Golgi complex is a sac-like structure which was releasing some round structures is known as a vesicles. Okay, vesicles. Through these vesicles it transport the proteins to the entire cell and also outside of the cell also. Okay, so here small vesicles are there. In these vesicles it will sort out the proteins and it will separate the proteins, which proteins they need to go at that place. It will be relocated. Like here this is one vesicle which was transporting the soluble proteins. Okay, then another vesicle which was transporting the secretory proteins. Okay, here these are the two type of proteins which was separated by this Golgi complex. Okay, which was separated by Golgi complex and it was packed through the vesicles. Small ball like structures is known as the vesicles. These vesicles was entered through the outside of the cell by the endocytosis, that is known as endocytosis. It was transported, these proteins was transported outside of the cell and also inside of the cell also. It was transported entire outside and inside of the cell. That is the major function of the Golgi complex. Okay, that's why it's known as a post office of the cell. And then another important organella which was known as a vacuole. Okay, here vacuole is there. So generally in this much of big vacuoles which was present inside the plants. Okay, but when it comes to the animals, it doesn't have this much of big vacuoles. It contains only small vacuoles. Okay, very small vacuoles. This much of big vacuole was present only in plants. Only plants. Okay, present only plants. So this vacuole was surrounded by a layer is known as a tonoplast. Okay, it is a single layer. It is a single layer that is known as a tonoplast. It was surrounded by tonoplast and it contains what is the major important role of these vacuoles. These vacuoles, it contains pigments and water, nutrients, all the things which was present inside the cell. It was stored in the vacuoles. Okay, vacuoles are the storage purpose use. It is useful for the simply storage purpose. Storage, like it stores all the pigments, molecules and waste materials also. These are known as a vacuoles. Okay, this is very important for the turgor pressure. Okay, turgor pressure. What is turgor pressure? You may get doubt what is turgor pressure. So turgor pressure is a type of pressure whenever plant absorbs water, it directly enter into the cells. At that time this vacuole become enlarged. Okay, this vacuole become big and enlarged. Because of that cell become rigid. Okay, rigid. Cell become rigid. So that rigid, because of that rigidness, cell will water will be flow evenly inside the cell. So rigidness is most important for the turgidity of the cell. So it was helping in the turgor pressure. Okay, turgidity of the cell. So these are the major important function of the vacuole, and mainly vacuole for storage purpose. Okay, students. Then next slide is lysosome. Okay, generally we know what is lysosome is a suicidal bag. Am I right? Lysosomes are suicidal bags. Why it's called as suicidal bags? Suicidal bags means it was decomposing and digesting the organelles which was not useful already, some damaged organelles or dead organelles, maybe any foreign material, like any material which was harmful to the cell and which was dangerous to the cell, and it was degraded by the lysosomes. Okay, it was digested by these lysosomes. How it was digested? Inside the lysosome there is a hydrolytic enzymes. Okay, these enzymes are the major, play a major role for the degradation or digestion. Okay, digestion. Okay, it digests all the cell parts which was not necessary, foreign particles like bacteria, whatever it enter into the cell, it was degraded in these hydrolytic enzymes, and this is known as a membrane which was protecting the lysosome. Lysosome also one organella which bounded by the membrane. Okay, these lysosomes, that's why we known as a suicidal bags. Why it's known as a suicidal bags means it was making the cell suicide sometimes also, because the cell which was particle, if per suppose the cell it doesn't not working, it was damaged through this hydrolytic enzyme, this the entire cell will be degraded. All the cell organelles which was not essential, which was not working, it was damaged to the cell, all the cells or cell organelles will be degraded. Okay, through the lysosome, through the with the help of the hydrolytic enzymes. Okay, then we know all the organelles which was present inside the cell, how it works. Okay, then we enter into the functions of the cell, major functions of the cell. Okay, so major functions of the cell, these are, number one is a, sorry, number one is a breakdown. Okay, breakdown of unwanted substance. I already told you breakdown of unwanted substance which was done by the lysosomes. Okay, which was done by the major functions of the cell. So what is the functions of cell? Here the first function is breakdown of unwanted substance. Okay, I already told you breakdown of unwanted cells which was done by the lysosomes. Okay, which was done by the lysosomes. So it was done by lysosomes, because it degrades the all the parts which was present inside the cell, and it helps from the preventing the cell from the damage also. Okay, then another one is a lipid. It was done by the smooth endoplasmatic reticulum, smooth ER. I already told you smooth ER was helping for the synthesizing of lipids and produce modify proteins. Okay, proteins. It is also done by the rough endoplasmatic reticulum which contains ribosome. Through the ribosome it was producing the proteins. Okay, then the major ribosynthesis which was done by the nucleolus. Nucleolus is done in the ribosomes synthesis. Okay, then provide energy for the cell aerobic respiration. It was done by the mitochondria. Okay, it was done by mitochondria. So here mitochondria is important for the producing of respiration, aerobic respiration, and also producing energy through the aerobic respiration. I already told you powerhouse of the cell. And then mRNA, like pathways for mRNA not DNA to move out. It was controlled by this complex, nuclear pore complex. mRNA and DNA was moving outside and inside. It was controlled by the nuclear pore complexes. And then transport and storage of substance. I already told you post office of the cell is known as a Golgi complex. Golgi complex. Okay, and then store DNA and control cell activities was done by the nucleus. It control all the works inside the cell, integration, cell activities, everything, and also it stores the DNA. And then and modify proteins and lipids and glycoproteins, glycolipids, which is also made up of with the endoplasmic reticulum and smooth endoplasmic reticulum, rough endoplasmic reticulum produce proteins. It was majorly done by the ribosomes. These are the major important functions which was occur inside the cell. This is the major functions. Okay students, I hope my video will help you. If you like my video, like, share and subscribe. If you have any doubts, comment it down in the comment section.